Sound art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it sound art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
Opening in 1978, the man-made island hosted Formula One racing right from the beginning. Hometown hero Gilles Villeneuve won for Ferrari in the opening Grand Prix. After passing away in 1982, it was decided for the circuit to be named after him. What was left is a high-speed circuit with guardrails on both sides, and that is what these drivers will be tasked with navigating with their GT4 race cars through the evening. Welcome, race fans, to Pit Stop TV. As usual, we're live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter this evening. JP Costa and Chris Walsh join me in the booth this evening. My name is Andrew Cardinale IV. We've got Corey Rexford on our social media coverage, and this is Pit Stop TV's live coverage of round 4 of 8 of the Operation eMotorsport 2021 winter season, where we are road racing north of the border this evening in the Great White North, here at the virtual Notre Dame Island within Parc Jean Drapeau, here in East Montreal, Quebec, Canada, at the virtual Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. It's been quite a season so far, JP Costa. We're now 3 races. Today makes 4 races into this second season of Pit Stop TV coverage of the Operation eMotorsport iRacing League presented by Recaro. It's been a doozy so far, visiting courses Daytona International Speedway, Road America, and Virginia International Raceway. Now we head up north across the border, and we're in for a whole lot more good action.
Yeah, exactly. This is going to be a completely different scenario from what we saw last week. You know, last week we saw a bunch of mistakes due to the gravel. This time we have a lot of walls coming in close, and obviously a circuit, an F1 circuit that, you know, F1 obviously visits every single year. So I'm hoping to see great racing. You know, this track allows for a lot of overtaking opportunities, especially on these cars. And, well, it's an unforgiving track. You know, Chris obviously is joining us in the booth. He definitely knows it. And, well, I just can't wait to get the race started.
And so we'll go ahead and we'll bring in our guest of the evening, and it's going to be Tommy Walker of the USO. We'll bring Tommy on into our channel. And Tommy, firstly, welcome to Pit Stop's booth this evening.
Hey, how you doing? Thank you.
Well, it's good to have you this evening, as with most of our, well, actually all of our guests. It's great to bring you guys in, get to talk to you. You are the programs manager at USO. So tell us what that role means. What do you do as programs manager at the USO, and how did you get your start?
Well, there's a few different program managers in USO, but my responsibility is with sport relations throughout the state of North Carolina. I'm also involved with the other programs within USO, which we do resiliency and outdoor activities and kids programs throughout the state for the military and their families. I got in with them when I retired from the Navy after 30 years in July of last year. And I was fortunate to work a program that serviced veterans and then promoted into this job right here.
So tell us a bit about the history of the USO and mission to assist military service members and families.
Well, for over 80 years, the USO has been the nation's leading organization that served men and women in the military and their families. From the moment they join, from their assignments and deployments as they transition back to their communities, the USO's always been there to help in any fashion. We have a global reach, that includes a diverse set of locations, and they're all designed and established to meet the needs of their specific communities, with more than 250 USO locations across the globe, let alone just 58 locations in the southeast part of the United States.
Now tell us a bit about the Pathfinder program and how it helps medically retiring and wounded service members in their transition from military life to civilian life.
Well, the Pathfinder Transition Program is a tremendous USO experience for service members and their military spouses, because it provides 5 professional services. The key areas are education, employment, financial wellness, mentoring, and increased access to relevant veteran resources within their communities when they separate from the service occurs. So maybe Pathfinder doesn't quite do the reach for a wounded warrior or something like that. We have hundreds of extended resources within the community that the transition program can connect them to relieve the stress to a service member separating.
Now, that's an awesome program, but outside of Operation Motorsport and obviously USO and Operation Motorsport's partnership, what other programs are available to transitioning service members?
Well, once they do that, the first thing they're going to get is an individual action plan through their transition specialist. And that's going to assist the member and the spouse to stay on track with their goals in the future. So, and then as the transition occurs, there's other organizations that we're connected with, like Onward to Opportunity, that can help through support from Google.org. The USO launched the Google IT Support Professional Certificate Program, and there's Skill Bridge programs. There's a tremendous amount of programs that we can connect them to that will ease their transition, because it's not easy. And it sounds simple, but it is that simple though when the transition specialists have all those resources outside of the USO to connect them to.
So plenty of programs absolutely to help service members out. Outside of Operation Motorsport, how is the partnership outside of Operation Motorsport and with Operation Motorsport helped the USO grow over the past few years, and what are your plans, I guess, big term for 2021?
Well, it's helped us to connect in an area that honestly a lot of service members in all branches of service may not be well aware of, and it's created opportunities for service members to learn about positions that exist within the Operation the Motorsport community. Last year we connected some people with social media. They were there at the Virginia International Raceway doing an event. We got people in the pits working, and it's connected them in that way. And we continue to do so. We're looking to do that again this year to bring people up to the raceway to get that experience again. Possible some mentorship, internship opportunities there. You want to talk about a great story is one of the people that went there last year when they came back. They admitted that they were on the verge of, they were in a depressed place and they didn't know what to do with their life. They were scared to get out. And even though we don't talk about mental health in the program, it's a mental health thing for our service members that transition to be veterans. And we saved a life. So you want to talk about a partnership, we're saving lives, we're creating careers, and we're going to continue to move forward with that partnership along with the iRacing League and getting the word out about that and connecting service members and veterans to those opportunities that exist as well.
Absolutely. Mental health is ever important, especially in today's climate. We've heard a lot about programs that the USO offers. We've heard a lot of amazing stuff so far. So how can someone get involved with the USO?
There's a lot of ways. I mean, one simple way is go to uso.org. There's volunteer opportunities. There's employment opportunity. April 17th, we got it was called the Purple Kids Telethon and Auction. It's a virtual event that's going to raise awareness and money strictly for military children. It's events like this that allows USO to keep doing the things they do to enrich the lives of the family members who suffer the stress of a deployed service member, or just a family that suffers the stress of the daily regime that a service member has to go through. So they can go to usotelethon.com and read all about the Purple Kids Telethon, or they can email me at twalker@uso.org with any USO question. Even if it's outside of North Carolina, I'd be happy to connect them with anyone that can help them out. So I'll be glad to leave you those resources if you want to pass them out to all the members of your teams and so forth.
Absolutely. And go even further, how can someone contact the USO?
Well, we have a Facebook page, facebook.com, USO of NC. You can go there and track us there. There's Twitter accounts, Instagram, LinkedIn channels. Just search USO and you're going to get a bunch of links. If you're looking for something state specific, you can, once you do your search, then go from there. If you want nation specific, you got that as well. But I always default to the simple, go to USO.org and if you want to be, and that will get you there. But if you want to go to the state, each state has their own that will link you up as well. And it's not one of those things where you contact us and you're not going to get a reply. You're going to get a reply because we're an 80-year organization that cares about people. So just hit us up and we'll take care of you.
And Tommy, thanks so much for your time this evening. Do you have any parting words? Anything else you want to mention here?
No, I just thank you guys for bringing me on and recognizing USO, and good luck to all the racers out there, and I hope they have fun and be safe.
Absolutely. Again, thank you so much, Tommy Walker. We're going to pass you back down to the buffer room. We're actually going to listen to a message real quick from the USO. Stand by. And thank you so much to USO for that message. JP Costa, it's time to get right on into round number 4 of OPMO winter action here in 2021. Let's begin by going over our racetrack for the evening. Montreal, as everybody knows it, but Circuit de Gilles Villeneuve. It is an amazing course. It feels a lot like a street course and like a dedicated road course at the same time. It's kind of a mix of both. As mentioned in the intro, it's a man-made island or on a man-made island. And with the proximity of the walls, treachery is soon to be around each and every corner. And it's certainly going to be a challenging course this evening. I really look forward to seeing these guys tear around this place.
Yeah, exactly. Drivers are going to be facing a lot of difficult corners, a lot of different turn-in points, and obviously getting very, very close to the barriers. As they head into turn 1, they have a pretty much 90-degree left-hander. As they head into pretty much a hairpin at turn 2, that opens up to a small straight with an overtaking opportunity down into the chicane of turns 3 and 4. After that, a small but curved straight, I'd say, turn 5, and then on a big chicane turn 6 and 7 that caught Sebastian Vettel in 2011 when he lost the race on the last lap. And then again, another decently sized straight that obviously can aid us in overtaking with another chicane, turns 8 and 9. And then we go to the big hairpin that's going to be lining up drivers for the absolutely massive back straight, the Casino straight on this course. And obviously, I guess one of the most famous corners in not only F1, but I guess in racing, the Wall of Champions. Caught a lot of F1 champions throughout, its life. And I hope to see every single driver, escape without a scratch from it tonight. But being in that difficult of a corner in such an important corner in the racetrack, I can definitely see some drivers hitting the wall on the exit.
Yeah, it's a beautiful track, and I think some of the stuff that you guys brought up is really important to note. So you've got these really tricky, fast turns inside of a very tight walled area. So you got to carry a lot of speed through a lot of technical sections like 8 and 9, 13, 14. And on those curves, there's these huge sausage curves on the inside and outside of those chicanes, which you got to hit just right every time. If you take a little too much of it, in the Porsche, for example, it's going to launch you and you're going to watch these drivers struggle. So very easy to find yourself in a wall. You back off too much and you lose the pace in those turns. So it's going to be very interesting to see the strategy on how guys are tackling those corners and making it through the evening and hopefully keeping the suspension, pointed straight.
Currently watching Brock Hogan get around the course. He just exited turn 2, now into turn 3, so you can get an idea kind of how close everything is once you get into the meat and potatoes of the circuit. Turn 1, like you mentioned, JP, it is kind of 90 degrees straight to the left, and then it really is a bit of a hairpin for turn 2. It doesn't drive like a hairpin at all. You're quickly in that switchback from the left-hander of 1 into the right-hander of 2, and it's a very complicated piece of racetrack. But looking back at our standings from, exiting last week at VIR, it's been, I think, all of Brandon Egerchit's success story so far this season. 105 points, that's 21 more than any other pro in the pro class. Moved down to beneficiary, Hunter Reeve. He's trying to do his own thing there, but Theo Brosma not so far back. They've each got a win, but Hunter Reeve has 2. That's what's keeping him above Theo's position for now. You roll on down to the open class, and Chris Bailey is starting to assert himself as possibly the favorite for that championship, but we're only coming up to halfway, and you can see everything is still very, very close. I'd say really the only one that's starting to get any kind of out of hand is that pro class, which our guest commentator on the evening knows a whole lot about. Chris Walsh is going to be here to take us through all of it. But getting right into qualifying here, guys, so far it's actually looking very interesting with pro Paul Lindsay currently on the top spot, and Christopher Bailey out of the open class, P2 in that number 10. So things looking very interesting towards the top of the scoring pylon so far. With 3 minutes to go and right into turn 2, Chris Bailey's going to lose the back end of his Porsche 718.
And Christopher Bailey just showing us how dangerous this track is. He just dipped a wheel onto the grass, and that was enough to make the back end of the Porsche spin. But that is actually really surprising to me, because I honestly thought that the BMW would have a great advantage here, because we saw at Road America the BMW had like a 17-18 kph advantage on the slipstream over the Porsche, and we saw Chris Walsh, he couldn't really catch up on the slipstream. So I thought that the BMW was going to dominate, but seeing Chris Bailey on P2 in a Porsche just shows the strength, I guess, of the car on the middle sector and on these tight hairpins. I guess Chris can back me up on that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the BMW, I ran practice in both the cars here to give the guys a kind of a concept and benchmark for where they should be. Low 143s, high 142s in qualifying would be a competitive time, which I think is where about we are with the drivers. But there was almost nothing between both the cars. You'll see the BMW handles those sausage curbs and in the Wall of Champions in turns 8 and 9 very nicely. The Porsche doesn't as much, but makes up a ton of ground in braking performance into turn 1. So I think it's going to be very interesting. It's really going to come down to who can be the most consistent throughout the night, who can get the best exit out of the hairpin and continue to hammer their points. Because one mistake here, can cost you a ton of time, and potentially damage and aero damage on these cars can be pretty significant.
Speaking of the hairpin and a little bit of damage, Travis Hill just came through the hairpin there, turn 10 into 11 it would be. And on exit, you saw his car kind of step out a little bit, and then suddenly it corrected. That's because he got that left rear just barely into that wall, it looked like. Didn't really do any damage, I don't think, to his white Porsche, but he certainly just kissed it. And yeah, I think that's actually going to keep his car in nice condition. Didn't really even get into it all that hard, but just enough. And it could be that little bit that invalidates a lap time. I'm sure that gave him a 0x, and that's going to make it a little bit harder to improve his qualifying time. He currently sits in 15th, which is a little bit low for a pro driver to sit in qualifying. We've got plenty of open drivers ahead of him. So Travis Hill, I think, is certainly looking to improve. I'm not sure he's going to get another lap time in, but hey, he's got an entire 60-minute race to go to work on that position. Paul Lindsay still atop the leaderboard. You can see the leaderboard off on your left. About 30 seconds left here in qualifying. We'll listen to another message here from one of our Opmo beneficiaries, and then we'll take you right into our starting grid.
On average, 22 veterans from North America commit suicide every single day. That's one veteran for every second of this video.
And welcome right back to Montreal. Well, I guess we didn't really leave Montreal, but we stepped away for just a moment, come right back to you. You can see qualifying extended just a little bit for these guys to wrap up their lap time. Still about a minute and a half or so for these guys to get a couple more times in. Not many cars on the racetrack, though. Tyler Langenberg, though, is one of those competing in the pro class this season. Oh, he's got big trouble! A massive hit there for the number 91, and that is going to end his qualifying run. He sits in 10th and will retain that position unless he gets beat, possibly by this guy right here, Theo Brolsma, the 24, looking pretty good this season in general. This evening as well, he's headed down the Casino straight to the final couple of corners of this lap, and we'll see how he does here momentarily. He's chasing both David Levine and Tyler Langenberg to pop up into the top 10, and he's got to gain, it looks like, 3/10 to do so, thereabouts. He'll come across the line. We'll see if he moves up at all, and if so, how much. To cross the line to complete his last lap, it is no better. In fact, it looked like it might have had a 1x somewhere along the way. Rick Hazlitt then, one of the next cars on the racetrack. There's only a couple left, and they're both right here, actually. It's Rick Hazlitt and Brian Winker, the last two cars on the speedway here, JP, and they're just trying to get one more time and see if they can work their way up the leaderboard.
Yeah, exactly, and they're coming up to pretty much, I guess, the most important corner of the racetrack. Looks like the number 336 unfortunately missed the apex by quite a bit on the hairpin. But yeah, obviously it's very, very important to get a great exit here, because look at the size of the straight. Even in an F1 car, this takes a long time to travel. So obviously in GT4 cars, this is going to take a while. But I guess you were mentioning the 1X. He unfortunately hit the barrier on the Wall of Champions, but Oh, looks like he's coming to the pits. Both drivers? Yes. So unfortunately, I guess that's qualifying over for them, just getting a bit more practice time, because we all know that, confidence on tracks like this, it's what really matters.
Yeah, I think you saw in the last couple cars there, they lost their laps due to a 0x, which in the race, I think it's pretty common. You're gonna see guys brush the wall, no big deal. You won't have much damage, but it's gonna be in the qualifying world, especially in iRacing, that discounts your lap. So that Theo could have been on a flyer, and just the tap on the wall kills him. So you'll see a lot of that throughout the race. Hopefully, they can keep it very minor like we saw, but those sausage curbs are gonna be. I think we're going to see a lot of cars take a lot of front end damage due to them.
That does wrap up our qualifying efforts here for Montreal, and that gives us a pole sitter of Paul Lindsay and the number 70, Christopher Bailey, the top open driver on the front row. He will start from second place. Rolling back to row number 2, it's going to look like this. Brandon Egerchich, he's won 2 of the 3 races so far, only being bested so far this season by none other than Chris Walsh at VIR last week. Charlie Bass joins him on row number 2. Rolling back to row 3, it's Hunter Reeve in the 44, then Rodney Campbell in the 62, and I believe that's the top beneficiary of the field so far, Hunter Reeve there in 4th. Rolling back to 7th and 8th, we got Thomas Outson and Sean Knight, and finally in the 5th row, in 9th and 10th, it's Dustin Burkhalter and Tyler Langenberg.
Starting off in P11, we're going to have David Levine on the number 259, and right alongside him, another beneficiary driver of Theo Brosma in the number 24. Starting in P13, we're going to have the 927 of Shane Hunter on the outside lane, the number 41 of Travis Hill. Unfortunately, had a bad qualifying. I'm sure he's going to put that behind him. Starting off in P15, we do have the 58 of Brock Hogan, and on the outside, the open driver of Brian Burkhardt in the number 18. Starting off in P17, or row number 9, we do have Rick Hazlitt on the number 69 and the number 7 of John Winker on the outside. And row number 10, we do have the number 11 of Callum Belden, and alongside him, Jason Leach on the number 22.
And in 21st position, we'll have the 336 of Brian Winker on the outside there. In 22nd, we'll have the 92 of Chris Matthews. 23rd, we'll have the number 47 of Tim Bernard, and in 24th, Jay Gleason in the number 64 car. And starting in 25th, number 5 of Dave Dalton, 26th, Kurt Gudenkauf, and number 81. And 27th, Mark Bray in the 946, and in the number 9 car in the 28th position is John Fox.
And that wraps up the starting grid. You saw we went green right there. A very early start from our front runners, Paul Lindsay and Christopher Bailey. They fired off immediately, and that catches everybody else off guard. They're already quite a ways back going through turn 3 for the first time this evening. You see 59 minutes and just under 30 seconds already left. That was a very interesting start. Really spread this field out. A couple of, I believe it's Air Force Gaming teammates here in 3rd and 4th, Egerchich and Bass respectively. Rodney Campbell atop, or no, the second open driver, because Chris Bailey's up there battling for 2nd place overall. He's got company from Hunter Reeve in the 44, our top beneficiary. So those 2 swap spots on the start, and everybody coming into the Wall of Champions, that final corner of the racetrack, everybody just got mixed up with the way that start went.
Yeah, obviously, that was very smart from the leader. Obviously, he just took the opportunity when the pace car went into the pits to obviously pretty much jump the start on his pace, and that, well, granted him a 1.6 second lead and a 3 second lead to P3. Obviously, for him and Christopher Bailey was ideal because they didn't have any competition going into the final chicane, the Wall of Champions. But obviously, everybody else had to go too wide through there. So obviously, that packed up the grid quite big. You can see the 62 being under pressure, but you can see there just a clear track for our race leader.
Yeah, and that's one of the big advantages of having that pole position, especially a track like this, where it's really narrow to the final chicane, and he gets a great run out of the finishing chicane there, and he's built a big gap up. That's probably exactly how I would have tackled the race start, so I'm glad it worked out for him.
You see already the gap over 2 seconds as they round the second corner on the second lap. Just under 58 minutes to go now. And, I mean, that's huge from Paul Lindsay. It's really going to catapult him into what should be a race-winning position as long as nothing goes too awry for the number 70. And, I mean, I can't believe we're talking about that so early, but he just got no competition right now. He's out clear by 2 seconds to his closest competition overall and 4 seconds to his closest competition within class. That's Brandon Egerchich with his teammate close behind. I mean, that was an amazing start from Paul Lindsay. A very interesting start. I don't think the rest of the field's going to like it too much, but it worked out for the number 70. That's what's important to him. A little further back, some battles sprouting up. In fact, Outzen not so far back behind Reeve. Knight in tow, Tyler Langenberg, Dustin Burkhalter, David Levine, everybody mixing things up back here around the buffer zone of the top 10.
Yeah, exactly. But obviously, 57 minutes still. As soon as you mentioned that he got a great gap, unfortunately he made a mistake when it pretty much was turn 6, I'm pretty sure, and that cost him nearly a second. So, this track is very easy to make mistakes. The corners, you can just easily just miss your apex, and that can cost you a lot. But, the leader definitely has a tough competition on being the racetrack itself. But you can see here just a massive a battle for position. You can see they're pretty much a single file train, everybody trying to stay in the slipstream. And I guess we're not going to see a lot of overtakes, but you can just see the Porsche. Is that Hunter Reeve just being reeled in slowly but surely from the BMW as they head into the Wall of Champions?
I think what we're going to see here is a lot of these guys are going to take it easy on the way out, get a feel for the track. The temperature is really in their favor tonight, sitting at only 75 degrees track temp, I believe, or the ambient temp. So they're going to have plenty of grip. The big thing is they're going to have to find that pace and see where they're comfortable, because they're going to have to get used to the braking zones changing as the fuel loads diminish. And I think what we're seeing from Chris Bailey, Brandon Egerchich, and Charlie Bass is those guys are sitting back, getting a feel for the track, letting Paul run away with it and see if he makes a mistake. They're going to play a little safe early on before they turn the pace up.
Up front, you're not missing anything. Lindsay's still clear by 2 seconds to Bailey, 2.5 more to Egerchich, and then the teammates are just running nose to tail. This is our first close battle on the racetrack. Hunter Reeve in 6th. Thomas Outzen, we're on board with him in 7th, and Sean Knight a little close behind. Really, everybody got very spaced out very quickly, which is what you want to see here at Montreal. I dare say, JP, most of this field is going to allow themselves to get kind of spread out. Of course, these guys all want to have a really good race. They don't want to get taken out in the early goings. I think we're going to see a pretty tame one, actually. And in talking to multiple people before this race, I don't think that's what anybody expected. I think we all expected a bit more of a street course vibe towards the start of this race, where everything was a bit more close together, maybe a little bit of contact, but everything very clean so far through the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody, I guess, just, not being overly aggressive in the first few minutes, because as we saw in qualifying, just a single tank slapper through the Wall of Champions can grant you a big hit, and that damage is obviously going to cost you in absolutely everywhere. Braking performance, straight line speed, I guess fuel consumption due to increased drag. Obviously, Paul Lindsay doesn't really care, just going as fast as possible, creating that gap. But this might be just the beginning of the race. Obviously, towards the end of the race, we might see some more aggressiveness from each driver. But I guess Chris can talk since he's on the booth. Few drivers could be thinking already about strategy. There's a lot of points that you can fuel save around this track, and it could be a big factor early on in the race.
Yeah, I think one of the big things is going to be, not getting any slowdowns. It's very easy to cut some of these curbs a little too much, especially in the iRacing simulator, and you give yourself a 1 to 2 second slowdown, which you'll quickly watch these gaps disappear if they do that more than once. So they're going to be very cautious to avoid those things and to avoid potential damage in the walls. And the GT4, the nature of these cars in iRacing is, they're great, they handle well, they carry good speed, but they're very difficult to pass in tracks like this, because once you get into the ABS on the brakes, you can't get any more braking performance. It really diminishes, and it's very easy to overshoot your turn or overshoot the apex, and you end up in a wall or into another car. So I think we're seeing timid drivers for that reason, because they know how difficult it is to pass in these cars.
And so actually, Chris, I want to ask you directly real quick. You mentioned about the fuel load changing the attitude of these race cars, the handling of these race cars more importantly. You drive the Porsche, and I know it's a pretty big effect in the Porsche 718 once that fuel burns off. What exactly is it like trying to manage that, and how do the Porsche and BMW differ in that scenario?
Yeah, so the big thing that you're going to see happen as and Paul goes fastest again, as the fuel loads start to decrease, is you get a little bit of nose starts to rise because the fuel sits in the front of the Porsche. And so when you have that nose come up, you lose a little bit of braking performance under the straightaways. And so when you're making your setups for these cars, it's an important thing to factor in is like, hey, this car drives great when it's full fuel load, but what is it going to be like when I'm down to 1 or 2 gallons right before I'm getting ready to pit? Because that can really have, you could have to back your braking point up 50 to 100 meters. It all depends on the the temperatures and all that stuff. The BMW, not as much of a factor because it's a front engine car. So I don't see the same level of drop off in braking performance when the fuel load gets lighter. The rear end becomes a little bit more of a handle to handle, but I think that's where one of the big advantages the BMW will have as the fuel load lightens up.
So we stay on board here with Hunter Reed for a moment. You can see the telemetry graphic down to the bottom right. And we won't have the fuel saving we saw last night in our coverage of the Pacific Challenge GT3 series, but I still want everybody to keep an eye on those gears if you can. It's a little bit hard to see the actual gear number, but you can see it change up to 5th, then 4th, down to 3rd now, and even to 2nd, even 1st right here in the hairpin. I'm not all that surprised by that, but it can certainly tweak the back end of the car if you downshift a little too quickly, although these being street car based, they do protect against that pretty nicely. Even so, sometimes you downshift a little bit too soon, JP, and you can tweak the back end of the race car and certainly go for a wild ride. We're seeing a battle kind of pop up actually right here as Brandon Egerchich has been overtaken a couple of times. Not only did his teammate Charlie Bass go on by, but Rodney Campbell as well, another open driver, putting this pro on his back heel.
Yeah, it looks like, I'm not pretty sure if he's struggling a bit with the racetrack, but that's interesting to see the difference. Especially this pro driver suffering a bit, but I'm sure he's going to be putting that behind him. Obviously, we differ from classes, but all these drivers, obviously, they have the same potential, I'd say. So it's not at all surprising seeing, some drivers excelling at some tracks. Last week we saw Chris, a pro driver, 30, 40 seconds ahead of the rest of the pro driver grid. So, this might be due to the confidence. We saw some drivers while we were discussing, just getting the car loose, so that might be hurting the confidence. I guess Chris, again, can talk a little bit about that. Once you hit the wall, your confidence on that corner, on the car itself, can really drop, and you're only going to be getting that over time.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like every track. Like VIR for me is a track I'm very comfortable in. But if you start to lose confidence in any of the corners, especially at a track like this where one little mistake can cost you the race, you're going to start to see guys back off their pace for that reason. So I think Paul has a very good grip on the track, and he's feeling confident that he knows he can hit his marks and he can run a 144 low consistently. And that's what we've seen so far out of him. And I think the other guys in the back are getting a feel for where exactly does their race pace sit, because as we saw in qualifying, I think across the top 5, we were spread by, a tenth of a second outside of the leader. So the pace is there for everybody. I think some guys are just playing it a little bit more safe than others, and and hoping that the guys in front of them will make a small mistake, which will end up giving them an advantage.
We saw that lapped car that got passed by these guys. It was a little bit scary at first to just suddenly see that black and green Porsche on the inside, but thankfully they all got by nicely. And these two will be coming up on him momentarily. Here's Shane Hunter, the 927, as the sun pokes out a little bit. Oh! And that lapped car going to hold up Tyler Langenberg a moment. This will promote a side-by-side battle out of the Wall of Champions. David Levine also in tow, a couple of D-Line racing teammates now in this fight with Shane Hunter right in the middle. And Hunter going to take the inside line for a 1. That's going to put... Oh, Langenberg actually backs out. Langenberg would have been on the inside for 2 and had the better line, but he backs out and gives that up to both of those drivers. And Levine now gets promoted to 11th. Shane Hunter into the top 10. And already some big mix-ups right here at the back end of the top 10. That was a very surprising little battle, and Hunter certainly wanted to get by. He does exactly that and gets up into the top 10.
That was very interesting to see. I'm not pretty sure if he got a slowdown. I don't think he did. I think it was on the outside just giving room, but I guess he just allowed his teammate to go. Maybe his teammate is faster. I don't know if they're on a call or something, but that was an interesting, action, I'd say. But, luckily it was clean for each and every single party, and I guess now he can actually stay a bit in the slipstream, maybe learn a thing or two about the drivers in front of him to try and get the positions back, or maybe just save a bit of fuel. Might be just a strategy game, but looks like we're gonna have a battle. Looks like Tyler is unfortunately dropping back a bit, but those two ahead are definitely gonna be going at it, at least on turn 1, I'd say.
Yeah, I think you're going to see, the prime passing opportunity is right there in that hairpin. Into turn 1 is pretty difficult because you've got that 90-degree left into the right-hander, and you got to carry a lot of speed through there. So you can pass down here into Wall of Champions, and it's a great place to do it, but you've got to be alongside before you come in because you'll overshoot that turn. You'll go through the first chicane over the sausage curb too much, and you're going to slow down. So it's picking your spots, making sure you have the pace and the confidence to hit the braking marker to get past somebody, and that if he wants to run you deep, you can't go side by side through some of these places without running into each other or running into a wall.
And how about that well set up pass from Travis Hill, who goes on by Theo Brolsma in the Wall of Champions, as you were talking there, Chris. And that's a big pass, actually, for Hill to get on by that beneficiary number 24. He's going to be up tangling with, 4 pros up ahead of him. So he's in common territory, I'd say, at least for that number 41 so far this season. Travis Hill, 4 pros directly in front of him. He makes 5 in a row. Then Egerchich further up, and then of course Lindsay and Bass both inside the top 10, and he's getting back up there to that familiar company with the rest of the pro category. A little further back, some more battles popping up. In fact, John Winker not so far behind Barack Hogan. This is for 15th and 16th. Hogan in 15th, Winker in 16th. Then Brian Burkhart here as well, and Burkhart sits in 17th on that number 18 Porsche 718, and it's a Porsche sandwich actually with a BMW in the middle.
I was just gonna say that it's a BMW, it's a Porsche sandwich with a BMW in the middle. So it's definitely gonna be interesting to see, I guess, with the cameras. We can see the strength and the weaknesses of each car. You can see just a little bit about how the Porsche was dropping on the straight, but how it catches up mid-corner, and you can just see the Porsche ahead, just how much it, was opening up the hairpin and allowed him to get a better exit. But, I guess this just shows, you can see now the BMW just walking in the distance. So I guess just shows the difference in the cars, and obviously this battle, unfortunately Brian got a bad exit out of the hairpin and it's not going to be close enough, and neither does the BMW apparently, but you can just see how confident they are over the barriers. Unfortunately some are more than others, but looks like we're going to have a battle into turn 1 here.
It looks like we got 2 potential passes here into turn 1. See who's got the bravado to pull it off. And what you just mentioned about the hairpin back there, it's a really important turn to get the exit correct. So to navigate that turn correctly, you've got to hit your brake marker, and the big thing is mid-turn you've got to be on the throttle just a little bit. You can't stand on it because the car will get loose on you, but you've got to have some good mid-corner throttle for you to get a great exit there. And I think some of these guys are struggling with finding that exit point and how to carry a lot of speed. And if you're late on that with the Porsche, you just can't reel the BMW in on the back straight. It is one of the hardest things to do against that car when you're going head-to-head in a battle.
Theo Brolsma not yet done. This is the battle for 13th. This is that other battle you guys mentioned as might having a second pass into 1. Theo backs out before forcing the issue there into 8 and 9. And man, it looks like he wants to get back by that 41 car, but the pace from Travis Hill just too good currently. And the battle with Brock Hogan and John Winker kind of splitting itself up. Now headed down into turn 10. These couple of Porsches go nose to tail, and Theo, with a later turn in, that'll give him a better exit, but he's really got to capitalize on it, and I'm not so sure that with the time he lost, it'll work out for him. We also see Dustin Burkhalter maybe kicking up a little bit of smoke here. He's had some kind of problem. We'll let this play out before we look at a replay possibly, but he might have some nose damage to that number 33 car. It looks like he might have gone around and even nosed it into the wall a little bit.
Yeah, it looks like damage. I'm not pretty sure if he has straight line speed damage, but, well, he's not diving into the pits. I'm not pretty sure if the pit window is open for these drivers. But, that is interesting to see. Now we just got to wait and see to look at his lap times, I'd say, and then later on find a replay. But you can see now the battle of the 2 Porsches. Are we going to see a move down into turn 1, or are you going to see more strategy game and being more cautious, just pressure? No, it looks like just sitting back both drivers, but you can see they're just everybody being a bit cautious, being aggressive on the brakes. As you're now going to take a look at the replay, let's see if it hit the wall on the exit of the hairpin. Let's see what happens.
And here's Dustin Burkhalter, just goes around, just gets on the throttle a bit too much, maybe a little bit too early, and tweaks the back end of the race car and just noses it into that wall right there. He had moved up through the top 10 before this spin. You can see he loses time to Hunter and the D-line cars as they go by, and that's really going to hurt Dustin's race from here on out, but he's still not in a terrible position. And Chris, you did a lot of battling with him last season. He's definitely not out for the count yet. He can absolutely get back up into the top 10. Just because he has this damage doesn't mean he's out of this by any means.
No, I think Dustin had great pace last season in the Miatas, and he's doing well in the GT4s as well. It's the big thing is minimizing mistakes. It doesn't look like he got too much damage. It was pretty slow speed wreck, but that was one of the dangers I'm talking about with that hairpin. You've got to be aggressive on the throttle, but if you're a little too aggressive, even the traction control isn't going to save you. So we saw that kind of bit Dustin there on that turn. And like what you mentioned with Theo, he's right there with Travis. The difference is it's very easy to follow somebody, but do you have the pace to not only pull off the pass, but then maintain the position in front of them? It's a little different. The car is a little different to drive when you're the lead car and you're not in that draft. So I think you're going to see how good are guys to holding those paces and getting past other cars and staying in front.
A very big battle here into turn one. Brosma on the outside now. Oh, and the 7 of John Winker overcooks the corner. Hogan's around here in turns 1 and 2, and oh my, we're crossing the track. Hogan gets across. Thankfully, nobody was coming right then and there, and they get away safely. But oh man, that could have been a whole lot worse. As it is, a couple of beneficiary cars. In fact, that was 3 beneficiaries battling into turn 1. Let's take a look back at what happens here, JP Costa. Certainly a big battle going to cost everybody involved here in turn 1. Theo Brosma had some kind of mistake out of the wall of champions, slowed him up, and suddenly he had a big company of 2 other beneficiaries, one in a BMW, one in a Porsche, and a whole lot of contact here in turn 1.
Yeah, exactly. 3 do not go into 1. You can see they're just, both of them just took the corner okay-ish, I guess, but the BMW just pretty much parked on the apex, and the Porsche, I guess, just came in and was like, okay, thank you, I'm going to take those 2 positions, but then in the last minute, unfortunately, he got turned, and well, that was a disaster for both the 58 and the BMW. But that was just weird. I don't know why he stopped. I guess to give enough room on the outside. But you're gonna have to take a look at the in-car camera, I'd say, just to take a look later on. But that was definitely a weird incident as they headed into turn 1. What are your thoughts, Chris?
Yeah, and that was one of the dangers I was talking about with these cars when it comes to passing opportunities. So you're gonna when you're trying to pass, like, you got to be aggressive on the brakes, but if you're too aggressive, what I think we saw happen there is you're into the ABS, can't get the car to slow down. You're asking way too much of the tires. You want it to stop, but you also want it to turn. So he just wasn't able to get turned in, which took him out wide and forced Theo out wide. And then Brock just came in super hot, trying to take advantage, but had the same issue where he didn't have the turn-in grip to make the turn, and they ended up coming together.
Thankfully, they continue racing. We stay in this thing, and really no big incident. It felt big, probably the biggest we've had so far, but realistically, they keep racing. Dented up a little bit, sure, but everybody's still in this one, and they only lost a couple of positions. The time they lost is bigger than the positions and points they will lose out of that one, and still plenty of time to recover. We're just getting past 20 minutes eclipsed so far in this, the 4th round of 8. Want to remind everybody that these broadcasts are brought to you by the following partners: Tucson Sound Art. You can go to TucsonSoundArt.com and purchase your Tucson Sound Art device today, and you can even use promo code PitStopTV to get 10% off of your order. We see a side-by-side battle here. We'll actually go away from that for a minute. We want to stay on this battle and see if Brock Hogan can get this spot back. It looks like he has the gusto to do so, and he will complete that pass into the corner just barely, and he's even going to have company now from one Rick Hazlitt coming up on these 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Hogan just taking absolutely opportunity of the mistake that the driver ahead of him did in turn 6. I guess he cut the corner. I'm not pretty sure if he got a slowdown, but just got a better exit. Obviously, one corner led to another. He got a better exit, but obviously now Rick Hazlitt is on the back end of both these drivers, getting the slipstream. He might be on the right foot, I guess, because both of them have damage from the incident. As you can see now, the number 7 staying on the racing line, not going defensive, but Rick Hazlitt's not going to be diving down the inside, is he? No, he's not. So both these drivers might be facing I guess, small aero damage that obviously is going to be costing them on a straight line. But, just taking absolutely the opportunity of the mistake of your driver, I guess that's another rule of racing.
Yeah, I think what we saw there with the 7 of John Winker, he, out of the turn there, turn 6, he took a lot of curb, and I think it was a little too much. Ended up giving him a slowdown, and he had to back off on the back straight between 7 and 8, which gave Brock just enough of a lead to get in there and make the move. And you can see what happens when you start battling with somebody on a track like this that are very tight. It brings other cars into contention very quickly. So it's a strategy game. You have to decide how hard do you want to push and fight with somebody because your lap times are going to suffer, or do you want to just drive away and get some space before you go into the battle? That's a big part of road course racing and these tight circuits like this, where you've got to be cognizant of what you're doing and how that's allowing cars behind you to catch you, and might bring them into a battle that you didn't want to have.
Currently watching a battle here with Chris Matthews in 20th position over Brian Winker in 21st. Chris almost caught Callum Belden into turn 1, and we almost had a battle there. In fact, Callum could have been passing. It's hard to say exactly. Just joining in on this open class battle is actually Callum Belden, a beneficiary driver. The other two here open. We want to go back out to the front of the field, reset our leader momentarily. Paul Lindsay still leading this thing as we get closer and closer to halfway. I'd imagine that's about where we'll see these guys pit, around the 30-minute mark, and still plenty of time before we get there. Charlie Bass, though, all over the back end of Christopher Bailey. This could usurp the number 10 for second place overall and move another pro driver up into the top 2. Although, well, Chris Bailey would still have a podium if things hold, regardless of what these two do for this position. While we have a quick moment, then we'll try and remind everybody that these broadcasts are brought to you as well by Race Pace. Pick up pace with Race Pace, a community-driven setup shop and driver development program. By Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine, you deserve the best care that money can buy. And by Whiplash Media, the official graphic and camera provider of Pit Stop TV. You see this battle now into turn number 10, the famed hairpin here at Montreal at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. And bit of a blink there out of third place, Charlie Bass. And you see lap traffic up ahead. JP, this might be when these guys want to consider taking their pit stop.
Yeah, obviously that's going to be on their thought. Obviously, I guess Christopher Bailey is taking notes of how quick he's catching up to the driver and where he may be able to pass. Obviously want to lose a little time as possible. Oh, we do have a bump. Oh, unfortunately, it looks like Charlie Bass just lost a bit on their braking, maybe just carrying a bit too much speed, and just kissed the back end of the number 10 Porsche. But just coming back to the back marker, obviously you do want to pass the back marker away from any corners, essentially on a straight line. As you can see now, both of them are going to be free because it's just going to be parked. Oh, that's a bit dangerous, but looks like it's all clear. Oh, and that's not going to be good for the number 9. I don't know why he's not taking the escape road John Fix, but being safe is what matters. And safely he rejoins the track, but obviously didn't interfere on the battle. But what do you think? What are your thoughts on that bump, Chris?
I think what we saw there for Charlie is, he's got the draft, he's got a horsepower advantage on that straightaway to the Porsche. And one thing that the cars lose is they have very little downforce already as compared to their GT3 counterparts. So when you've got that draft and you don't have as much air going across the front of your nose where there's a small splitter, you lose a little braking performance. So he might have just not realized he needed to back his braking point up just a touch, and that's why we saw that. Luckily, nothing too serious. Looks like no damage on either car, and I'm sure Chris Bailey was feeling the pressure there. But yeah, when you deal with these back markers, it is a strategy game. Like, you want to pit so you don't pit too early, but you also, to avoid running into traffic, but you also don't want to come out into traffic. So there's a big challenge with how you want to attack pit strategy with traffic.
And you just saw a big moment there for open driver David Dalton. Thankfully keeps the car in one piece. Did give a slap to that wall on the inside of 10. And we'll see what he does now with the whole field, it feels like, coming up behind him into the wall of champions. He's going to let it looks like that's the 86 going by. He's actually going to pit right here. I'd say that's a pretty smart move given the fact that that would have been really tough to navigate for everybody involved. So he lets the rest of the field go on by. And Charlie Bass continues his pursuit of second place. Brandon Egerchich solidly into fourth. And and everything kind of calming down for the most part. You see this line of race cars, and it feels like it's getting busy. It really is a little bit, but this is relatively tame for Montreal. It can certainly get a whole lot more busy than this. While we have this moment just ahead of halfway, though, we do, of course, want to remind everybody about Opmo's partners. Recaro, whether it's on the track or iRacing, Recaro Automotive is all about making driving feel safer, more comfortable, and more controlled. Something all these drivers need right now, tackling the very tricky corners of Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. A driving experience that you can really feel. And Recaro Automotive, of course, puts people first every time. And of course, since day one, Mobil 1 advanced synthetic motor oils have been a part of every Corvette racing win. The tradition continues with the new mid-engine Corvette C8R. You see this battle brewing up ahead. We don't want to pause on this any longer because Rodney Campbell has a mirrorful of beneficiary, Hunter Reeve. This is for the top 5, in fact, 5th position in this race. And it's getting very, very close. You even see the couple of open drivers behind battling, and those would be Thomas Outson and Sean Knight. Everything getting very, very close as pit stops loom.
Yeah, exactly. Hunter Riv definitely, I guess, wants to get past that BMW of Campbell, because if he doesn't get past the BMW quickly, he might be under threat from the BMWs behind. So I guess having that buffer just helps him a bit. You can just see how much the BMW is stretching its legs. I guess Hunter is just catching up through the second sector, through the small chicanes and corners, but unfortunately just dropping everything on the straights. And that obviously allows him to I guess get under pressure from the guys behind. As you can see, they're just thinking about going a bit defensive. You can just see how much he lost, and so I guess this is just a matter of time. I guess he might commit soon to an overtake. Oh, as we have now a big mistake from number 62 that might allow Hunter to maybe put a nose on the inside. Is he gonna think about it? No, looks like he's just gonna be sticking behind. So just applying pressure. He now knows that he can force him into a mistake, forces Campbell into a mistake. As you can see, they're just pushing pretty much that BMW on that small straightaway. But unfortunately now he has to go defensive because Thomas Outson wants to get past him. So this is becoming very, very interesting, and there's a lot of pressure going on through all 4 drivers.
Yeah, Hunter Reeve, I mean, he was great last week at VIR. He had a P5 overall, even being a beneficiary. So he's finding great pace in the Cayman GT4. And this is what I was talking about with the challenges here. Oh, there's some contact.
And that's going to hurt Thomas Outson in all of this. We'll take a look back at what happened. It's very hard to tell. Outson was up the inside of Hunter Reeve here looking for a position, and that would have been good for 6th place on the racetrack. We'll take a look what happens. So this is going to be as they pass that lap car we saw while we were on board with Hunter Reeve. And oh man, Outson just gets a great run up on the 44. He takes it upon himself to go for the corner. Oh, and he just gets in way too deep, and he gets into Sean Knight really, really hard here. And unfortunately, no, that was on to Rodney Campbell rather, and Sean Knight gets a piece of him afterwards, T-boning this number 23. Big contact for all involved.
Yeah, definitely not a pretty move. He unfortunately tried to go for the inside line. I don't think he needed to commit that much under braking. I guess Chris will back me up on that. Once you have the inside line through that corner, you pretty much have the position. Unfortunately for Thomas, I guess that's not going to be race over, but that's definitely not ideal because it could be some suspension damage. The steering might be bent to one way, so unfortunately he might have to obviously take in the pits early, but that, I guess, was just, just missed the braking point a bit, and unfortunately that's going to cost him big time on this race.
Yeah, I mean, Thomas had a great run there, and he easily was side by side, so he didn't have to brake nearly as deep as he did. That was a challenge we were talking about earlier. You get into a battle with somebody, Hunter carrying great pace, and right there with Paul Campbell, and he got into this battle, and it allowed 2 other cars to catch up to him. So, that's the challenge with these types of circuits when you've got 4 cars really close together. I think Thomas just overshot that turn and bet too much on how good the brakes could be, got into all those cars. Luckily, they've got fast repairs in this series, so they decided to pit that lap because of that damage and go ahead and take fuel and take the fast repair so they can, get back to the pace they were at before.
very important to do so and just cut your losses right there, pit quickly, and be done with it. I want to mention Paul Lindsay has really backed up a bit to Charlie Bass. He had opened the gap up by a bit more than this, and it's since narrowed just a little bit. I think maybe he had a big moment, might have lost a little bit of speed, but he's still doing okay. Over 3 seconds. He's certainly by no means in trouble of losing the race lead. A big gap to Christopher Bailey. You see the big gap there. This is second place, Chris Bailey. Charlie Bass comes in. Oh, actually, well, that was Brendan Egerchich flying right by our camera coming into the pit lane. He's going to opt to pit pretty quick, and this, I think, will set the tone for everybody else up front. It's going to be pit now or get left behind.
I guess this could be a strategy because obviously he might feel that he's faster than the guys ahead, but unfortunately cannot find a way past. So obviously taking the pit stop right now allows him to probably get in free air. That's definitely what he's hoping for, and maybe just punch in those quick lap times to hopefully jump Chris or Christopher Bailey, and who knows, maybe Paul Lindsay. Paul, I guess, made a mistake somewhere on the racetrack that could happen again, and that could open up a battle for the lead on the upcoming few laps.
Yeah, I would guess that between Paul Lindsay and Charlie Bass, I think both those guys caught a slowdown somewhere because you saw those gaps between Chris Bailey either shrink or grow respectively. So I think Brandon, he's done well with the pit strategy the last few weeks, and I think he knows exactly when he wanted to come in and give himself fuel and maybe go for the undercut here. I don't know if he's got the pace to do it on laps. He's hoping probably those guys get caught up in some traffic and he can make up a bunch of time with pit fueling and the slowdowns with the traffic they might run into.
Many more drivers down the pit lane here. You see them all coming in for service. Several going up on the jacks. In fact, that's the 69 of Rick Hazlitt up on the jacks. Currently, Paul Lindsay still on the racetrack. He's got a lapped car behind. That is not for position, ladies and gentlemen. Just under 27 minutes to go. When does Lindsay make the move down the pit lane? He could do it right here. In fact, he might have been involved in an incident with a lapped car, considering the way the front of that car is bowed in a little bit. Looks like he might have given somebody the old Punterino, and it's just got a little bit of damage. Not much, but enough to take note of. I doubt he would have spun and got that damage. I dare say he gave somebody a bit of a boop into a corner to say, hey, I'm the leader, I need to come on by, I need to keep my race together.
Yeah, exactly. And that's obviously not ideal, but looks like he's managing the gap to Christopher Bailey quite well, just keeping up the gap and stretching it, lap after lap. So even if he has damage, that might not be affecting his pace too much, because on the first few laps we just saw, a great pace from Paul, just pulling away. I guess at one point we even saw over 10-second gap. And obviously it could be due to a slowdown, as Chris said, and that's a great point. But no, for now it's already up to nearly 4.2 seconds. So he definitely still has the confidence and the pace to keep backing up those lap times.
Yeah, I think Paul, he's a driver, like myself. It's great to be out front. You can control the race, you can control the pace, and especially when you don't have pressure right behind you, you get to drive your line and do exactly what you want to do. The danger of that is, and I experienced this last season, where you kind of can lose focus. Sometimes having the pressure and having that close battle keeps you able to drive on the edge a bit more. So being able to keep yourself in the mental zone to say, hey, I need to keep hitting my marks, keep pushing my lap times and keep them on the pace I want to maintain, it can be difficult. And you can make a small mistake here or there, which can cost you a ton of time or potential damage. So, it's one of those things, the mental focus is something that's really critical when you've got a massive lead like that and you're trying to hold on to it for, 30 more minutes.
Man, get a load of this guy. Talking about being so far in front of the lead that he's making mistakes, and it's actually detrimental to his race. I get a kick out of that. That's actually kind of funny. But you're entirely right, Chris, that sometimes you can get out there and kind of zone out, and it actually will take you out of your rhythm, oddly enough. It's not a problem I've had very often on the iRacing sim, but every once in a while, you get that good race on that good day. We see race leader Paul Lindsay coming into the pit lane. He's got Christopher Bailey in behind as Hunter Reeves stays out, and he'll get a lap led, it looks like, and, it depends on when he pits. I'd imagine the next time around, but he could go around and get that lap led. So a couple of race leaders coming in. David Levine going to follow suit. He's going to come down the pit lane. He's going to bring his teammate Tyler Langenberg on with him. And most of the field now has completed their pit stop or initiated their pit stop, including Sean Knight, Thomas Outson, Travis Hill, Dustin Berghalter, Theo Brolsma, Rodney Campbell. In fact, I think Rodney came in twice, but he's hanging on to 13th now. So a little bit down the order from where he was in the top 5, but not race ending by any means. We're really just watching the top 2 to see when they pit. It's Hunter Reeves Reeve and Shane Hunter.
I'm not pretty sure if you caught it, but I think Christopher Bailey actually took tires. His car went up to Jax. I'm not pretty sure if he took tires, but if he did, that's an interesting choice. No, looks like he didn't. The gap looks the same. Actually, the gap shrank because he's only, what, 2.7, 2.8 seconds behind the leader. So looks like, I don't know if the Porsche, the fuel consumption is a bit lower. Maybe he fuel saved a bit, but maybe someone made a mistake on the pit stop. That's going to be interesting. Obviously, Charlie Bass is already behind Christopher Bailey, and looks like the strategy didn't work out, the undercut. But, you know, that's interesting to see. Maybe we got to keep an eye on for fuel for Paul Lindsay or even Christopher Bailey at the end of the race.
Yeah, I mean, that was, if he decided to short fuel it, he did a great job and cut that lead down. Hopefully he can latch on to the back of Paul Lindsay and find some pace. It was pretty cool to see Hunter Reeve lead a couple laps there. But yeah, the pit strategy is huge, and it is very easy to, it's always a fine line on how much fuel do you want to take. Do you want to play it close to where you finish with a half a gallon, or do you want a little extra when the battle's this tight and it's inside of, you know, a few seconds? You got to play it close. So, you know, the guys might be taking a bit of a gamble, and hopefully if you're in the draft you can conserve a bit, but you know, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out at the end of the race here.
On board with Hunter Reeve for his pit stop. We'll see if his car goes up on the Jax. It doesn't look like so. So he will stay on this set of tires, and he pulls back away, and we'll get back out there and get back fighting. We did leave the lower third there up long enough to see that the 0 laps led did tick over to 1 lap led. So congratulations to Hunter Reeve getting that lap led. That's actually big. And it means a lot to a driver to be able to go up there and be close enough that even in a pit cycle, I mean, you've got to be up towards the front if you want to get the lead, even just for a lap here in these pit cycles. So that means something. He's keeping tabs with everybody up front and was close enough to be able to do that just as Paul Lindsay was getting to him as well. That might have been a photo finish across pit lane on the racetrack. He's coming up on that lapped car, the 81 car now, and he will go right on by. So now we get to see kind of the dynamic that this race will take. Paul Lindsay still out and away, but not all that far. The gap for the lead actually down to 2 seconds, and if Chris Bailey might have taken tires here, it could really help this car. They have about the same pit stop time. In fact, Lindsay's was a half second faster here, JP Costa, so I'm really surprised that these two have actually neared one another after this pit cycle.
Yeah, if the pit stop itself was only half a second difference, obviously Christopher Bailey then made up a lot of time on not only on pit entry but pit exit as also, maximizing that lap time. And maybe now that's just a bit of the confidence boost that he needed to trying to push the car a bit towards its limits and maybe trying to catch up to Paul and maybe fight for the lead, because that's definitely what I want to see for Christopher Bailey. You know, an open driver and battling for a pro driver for the overall win. That's definitely something to keep an eye out for.
And last week, these two guys were battling for third and second place for a very long time in the race. So they have very similar pace. I don't think Chris ended up taking tires, just knowing how long the tire cycle is, or how to get tires off and on in the sim. It's a pretty big time gap. So for him to come out that close, he has to have his fuel dialed in really nicely. Probably saved a little early on and gave Paul the gap and said, hey, you know what, I'm going to save a half gallon, 0.7 gallons of fuel, and see if I can make up the time in the pits and close up and use the draft to get up on him. And you know, it looks like Paul he had good pace early on. He might be struggling with the tires now. He might have lost a bit of his rhythm in some of the tighter sections. So it's going to be interesting to see how these two cars perform here at the end of the race as the tires degrade and the fuel loads get lighter.
So currently watching things kind of take shape for the back end of this race with 20 minutes to go. We'll step away momentarily. We're going to leave you here with the onboard. Well, maybe not. It's a big moment up ahead. Oh my, a couple of lap cars here. In fact, that's the number 11 we're looking at, the Porsche of Callum Belden that gets passed up here. I'd assume this is Tim Bernard they're passing now, and Bernard will also go a lap down. We'll stay on the onboard here momentarily. We'll listen to a message from one of our beneficiaries here with Operation eMotorsport. We'll be right back to you momentarily.
Operation Motorstart's helped me get me away from home, I guess you can say. I'm at home doing nothing because of my medical stuff. Besides the basic brake changing, oil changing, tire rotation. I've actually learned how to assemble and disassemble some engine parts, change some axles, do some alignments and stuff. So give it a try. You never know. This was nothing that I expected. I did not expect to be fully suited, jumping over a wall while cars are going 100 and something miles an hour. It's more than working on cars. For one, you're building friendships. You're meeting new people. And if working on cars is not your thing, Operation Motorsports has other things that you can do. Something, it's not just, I'm going to go out there and turn a wrench on a wheel.
And 18 minutes to go now, ladies and gentlemen. You see the gap has narrowed oh so closely. It's down under a second. We'll wait until after the hairpin, but there's a battle brewing behind as well for third between a couple of teammates. You see Chris Bailey just kind of holding him behind, although our race leader blinking a little bit there in turn 10, and they will exit all nice and safely. Meanwhile, into the hairpin, you see this battle between Air Force Gaming teammates, and they've got these lapped cars to come up with and contend with for a moment. Tim Bernard and Callum Belden. Let's actually go on board with Charlie Bass as he navigates this situation, because this is always so tough, JP, coming up to the Wall of Champions, dealing with lapped cars. There's really only one racing line to begin with, and now you've got a couple of lapped cars going side by side, even battling for position right in front of you as you've got your teammate breathing down on you. Oh my.
Yeah, that's definitely not great, especially when they're fighting for position, because obviously you're a bit quicker. As you can see now, throwing pretty much a block to go side by side, number 47 there, but obviously that's not ideal because you're going much slower to obviously compensate for the difference in speed on each corner, but that's definitely hurting the 94. Luckily for him, it's his teammate behind, so I'm pretty sure they're gonna have a nice clean battle, maybe just respecting each other right now and just knowing, recognizing, I guess, the position that your fellow teammate is in. But you can see there, number 47 quite aggressive, obviously doesn't want to lose contact to the Porsche ahead of him, but you can see they're just pushing the car to a limit. But obviously now Brendan Agerchik, a small touch. Looks like they just came unscathed. The number 47 obviously does not want to give up the position because they don't want to lose the battle. But luckily right now he has to yield. Only now number 11, but unfortunately for Brandon, he lost all that time he gained, over nearly 1.5 behind his teammate now. So he definitely has some time to make up.
And the lap traffic is really tricky. It can be a big help, and in Chris Bailey's situation, I think we've seen him help him close up on Paul Lindsay. But between Brandon and Charlie, you saw, it created a gap, shrunk a gap, and then created it. And so, the thing for the lap cars, those guys are racing too, and they're probably racing for position. So they're going to do everything they can to keep their race alive and still respect the lapping cars and the lead lap. So it's a tricky situation, and that's why, the pros and the open drivers are a bit more experienced, know how to navigate those situations, and they made it through that, without any major contact, but did lose time to each other.
Speaking of time to one another, it has narrowed once more for the race lead. Chris Bailey still hanging right on to this number 70. They've gapped one another a little bit down the front stretch, but now into 1 and 2. They have a lap car up ahead. Oh boy. Chris Bailey must be thinking this might be his opportunity to get on by. Just over 15 minutes to go, and inexplicably, pretty much, this number 10 is caught right up to Paul Lindsay, and we have a battle for the overall race lead. These guys both look like they have a win locked up in class, but they want to slug it out for the overall win because, of course, well, bragging rights.
Obviously, definitely, you always want to win overall, doesn't matter which class you are. Obviously, if you're in the pro class, I guess that's an aim, but obviously for an open driver or even a beneficiary driver, that's huge for them. It's a huge confidence boost that's definitely going to help you over the course of the championship, because just knowing that you were the best driver overall, out of 27 drivers. Ooh, it looks like we do have a bit of a mistake. It's just going to push your confidence, and who's full of confidence right now is Christopher Bailey, because he's just sending it, just following extremely close Paul Lindsay, who's under a lot of pressure right now. Unfortunately, I guess he's struggling a bit, maybe with tires, fuel load. Something happened after that pit stop that unfortunately it's cost him a lot of pace, and Christopher Bailey might just be minding his time, just waiting for the right time to pounce and maybe go for the move.
Yeah, and I think what'll happen for these drivers is you'll get used to driving the car, full fuel load, fresh tires, and then worn tires on a lighter fuel load. So you get a good feel for where the brakes are, where the braking points are, how the car is acting. But once you do the pits and you don't take tires and you're going with a pretty heavy fuel load again, you're having to readjust. And I think Paul is having some issues, and I think his BMW is having some front tire issues with grip. So, Chris has found the pace. The big thing for him now is going to be figure out when and what time do I want to pass. Do you do it early with 10 minutes remaining and allow Paul some time to follow you and see where you're strong, or do you want to hang on to the end, pass last minute so he doesn't have another opportunity to fight back at you? So I think he's, right now he's just sizing Paul up, seeing where he's weak and strong, and figuring out what's the best time to make this pass and pull it off.
They've got that lapped car just ahead. This is going to play into Christopher Bailey's hand nicely if he can capitalize it. Oh my, Paul Lindsay all over the back end of, is that the 336 possibly of Brian Winker? I think it is. Here we might have the pass for the race lead. Side by side, no. Chris Bailey backs out, is going to fall back behind the tail end of the 70 car. I think that's a very wise move heading up into turn 8 right here. You can maybe try that into the hairpin as, Winker goes off, and this might be Christopher Bailey's opportunity. A big run up out of turn 9. He's going to have this chance to dive in 10. You see the 70 going to move over and defend. Paul Lindsay knows what Chris Bailey can do, so he's going to try the outside, maybe even over under here for the race lead. He tries it. He almost gets there, but I think he got into the back end of Paul Lindsay's machine, and oh man, what could have been for Chris Bailey.
Yeah, he pretty much got the under and over just pretty much perfect, but unfortunately on the exit, that BMW just a bit over to the right-hand side, and unfortunately that caused the Porsche to give it just a little kiss. But Christopher Bailey putting immense amount of pressure on Paul Lindsay. You can see there, even on the wall of champions, just like getting extremely close to the back end of the BMW, just trying to fill up the mirror, just trying to let the driver know you're there and you're not gonna make a mistake. And looks like Paul is kind of cracking a bit under pressure. We saw him losing a bit of the braking point. You can see now losing a bit of the apex, I'd say. And Christopher Bailey just hitting absolutely perfect, getting a better exit now. Is he going to be close enough for turn 3? Is he side by side? Yes, he is, but it looks like he's going to back out. So that's just increases. That's not going to make Paul Lindsay's life any easier. It just makes it more difficult knowing the driver behind you is faster and might get passed at any given time.
Yeah, and Chris is doing a great job here. I think he's he's showing that, hey, look, I can pass you in a bunch of different corners. I'm going to stick my nose in there and just show you that I'm right here. But I don't think, based on time of how much time's remaining in the race, he wants to make that move and give Paul a chance to follow him, save his tires, maybe let the car settle in a bit more and see where he's weak. So I think Chris is really, his racecraft here in this situation is really looking good. And Paul is feeling the pressure, and he's driving a bit in his mirrors, and that's causing him to miss some braking points, make these small mistakes, which is diminishing his advantage. And right now it looks like we might even see the lead change right here in the hairpin. But like we've said a million times, that BMW is strong. Even in the draft for the Porsche, you have a really hard time getting close enough to make a pass under braking in the fast stretches. So I think we're gonna have to see Chris make a move in the back part of the track where he gets a good run and it's tight and technical.
And Ricardo might want to see about Chris Bailey becoming a brand ambassador or something, because, oh my, he got very close to Paul Lindsay's rear end and he gave us a screen full of the Ricardo logo quite nicely a few corners back. Now these two still setting nose to tail as we come up to turns 1 and 2 once more. 10 minutes to go, just about here in about 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So 10 minutes to go for these two, and the 10 is all over the back end of the 70. Want to remind everybody about our Opmo partners. We saw them a moment ago. We'll see them again here at Recaro and Mobile One, making a lot of things happen here for Operation eMotorsport and the iRacing League, presented by Recaro. And an ergonomic sitting position means a comfortable position. With perfect seat contours and innovative features that support your body, Recaro Automotive makes driving fun, be it on the road or racetrack, or in this case, on the sim. And of course, Mobile One is the world's leading synthetic motor oil brand. Very happy to have them alongside us this evening. This is getting ever so tight. Want to quickly step away? Well, maybe not. I keep wanting to show a battle further back, but we'll have to stay with this side by side up to a lapped car. And oh my, that is how you use somebody as a pick. Chris Bailey going to take the overall race lead as the 81 car stays in front. That was Kurt Gudenkow stays in front of our previous race leader, Paul Lindsay, and that really changes things up.
That is traffic management 101. And he just placed his car on the perfect spot. The lap car unfortunately had to go in front of Paul Lindsay, and obviously he let off the gas. That caused Paul Lindsay to unfortunately have to check up and unfortunately lose the lead. But Christopher Bailey just did everything right. Just flashed the lights to let the car know he's going past. Let us race. But unfortunately for Paul, on the wrong place at the wrong time, and unfortunately for him, looks like now he's going to be dropping back. Now it's a question of time. Can Paul Lindsay fight back and find his space that he had on the first few minutes of this race, on the first half an hour of this race? Because if he can, we're going to have a very, very exciting final 8 minutes. But if he can't, Christopher Bailey is going to be walking out to an exceptional victory tonight.
Yeah, I mean, that like you guys mentioned, that was great management of the traffic and using a lap car to your advantage. I think Paul made a mistake there and didn't put himself in a position to get around the car and block that lane, but Chris took advantage of that. And we will see, does Chris have the outright pace to walk away with it right now, or can Paul tuck in behind and do what Chris was doing to him for the last 4 or 5 laps? So it'll be an interesting race finish. I hope we have a battle all the way to the final lap, and it stays really exciting.
Well, that battle split up a little bit, so our eyes shift here to Sean Knight and Thomas Outson, a couple of open drivers battling for 5th and 6th, and what an overall top 5 might mean to Thomas Outson if he can get up there and eclipse a half second or so, get up and battle the 65 for that 5th position. It's getting close. This is the battle I was really wanting to check out for the last little while, but man, those guys were mixing things up literally for the race lead, and now we get to see Hunter Reef up there in 4th. Takes 8 a bit wide, loses a little bit of time. That actually might give us a 3-car battle once more. Before that happens, though, let's talk about Tyler Langenberg all over the back end of David Levine. It's spaced out a little bit, but these couple of teammates holding strong in not quite the midfield, but towards the back end of our top 10. Everything behind them is split up a good bit. The closest other battle we have is Brian Burkhart trying to catch up to Dustin Burkhalter. So our eyes then go back to Sean Knight and company, and this is where things might get interesting within the top 10. We'll keep tabs on our race leaders, but this is our first good battle.
Yeah, exactly. Now we're gonna see the difference. You can see just how much the BMW closed. So now Hunter Reeves is gonna be under an immense amount of pressure to hold off both BMWs. We saw that Thomas Outson was quite a bit closer to Sean Knight before, but unfortunately for Hunter, he made a mistake on the exit of turn 8 and on the entry start of turn 8 that obviously compromised him through that entire sector and then allowed the BMWs to get into the slipstream range, and that obviously now it's going to be a mountain to climb so he can remove himself, let's say, from the slipstream. But if these two start battling, that's going to be absolutely everything that a Hunter needs to secure that 4th position. You can see there the BMW of Thomas Outson just getting closer and closer to Sean Knight, and well, if these two get side by side, Hunter Reeves not gonna need another excuse, another invitation to go away. But with the lap traffic,
oh man,
I guess it was the best case scenario to stop before the apex. But traffic management, obviously we can see there another left car is gonna be essential for this battle.
Yeah, and I think something that's really important to note, we had Charlie Bass and Brandon Egerchek fighting for the 3rd position there, and Brandon is now a lap down, so I don't know what happened to him, but that's one of the things, when you are a car that's getting lapped, you got to pay a lot of attention to just driving your line, let the guys pass you, don't try to do anything different. They're expecting you to drive the race line, and they're going to go around you based on that information. If you decide, hey, I want to move over last minute, or take a totally different line, or just park it right in front of the turn, that's not something normally you expect on a racetrack, and that can cause incidents. Luckily, those guys figured that one out without any crashes, but that can be pretty dangerous.
It's a very good eye there, Chris. I had actually overlooked the fact that Egerchek was no longer towards the front of the field. Some kind of big problem for him. Goes from fighting for a top 3 now to 17th position. Huge detriment to his day. Meanwhile, Outson, well, he's just lost some time up out of the corner. He must have overcooked the chicane right there. Loses a lot of time now to Sean Knight. You can see the gap there. I mean, that is incredible how much it's grown suddenly. And, yeah, I mean, that's actually incredible. I think we might have... I don't think we lost anybody up here. I thought maybe we lost a driver that was in this battle. No, the gap just suddenly grows. It was down to 4/10 into the chicane, which tells me Allison must have overcooked the corner and now falls into the threshold, possibly, of Shane Hunter. This would be for the 7th spot. Rather, the 6th spot, if Shane Hunter can get out of the 7th spot. David Levine, 11 seconds back here, not really a concern for the 927, so you may as well just go after it and see if you can get that spot.
Yeah, exactly. I'm pretty sure it may have been a mistake on the on the Wall of Champions, because everybody lost a bit of time, obviously, apart from Hunter Reeve, because Sean Knight is now nearly 2 seconds behind Hunter Reeve, and Outson obviously losing a lot of time. Is going to lose even more time as Shane Hunter might be fancying a move into the hairpin. Is he close enough? Is he brave enough under braking? He's looking to the inside line, but I don't think he's going to be diving in, just putting pressure on Thomas Outson to try and get that 6th place spot. You can see they're just going a little bit tighter on the apex. That might compromise his exit a little bit, but he's definitely on the slipstream and definitely applying a lot of pressure.
Yeah, we're getting to the end of the race. Tires are wearing down. One little mistake, you brake a little too later. There's nothing extra in the car for you to find, so you can easily overrun the turn or overspeed it, get a slowdown. So these guys have to be very precise right now, and with pressure, it makes it even more difficult. I just want to shout out Hunter Reeve. He's sitting there in 4th position. One mistake from Charlie Bass, and he could have a podium overall. So pretty great drive by him, and seeing him hang out in the top of the top 5 is pretty impressive.
Oh, you see, that was Sean Knight all over the grass momentarily. It is a great drive so far from Hunter Reeves, sitting in the 4th position. And he started 5th, so he's technically only up 1 spot. But even so, a very good day so far from the driver of the 44 for the team Huge S. And boy, they're pretty active in amateur sports car racing. I've seen them up at VIR a couple of times, and good to see them staying very active here on the iRacing.com simulator in the form of Hunter Reeve and many, many others. Hunter, just our representative here on Pit Stop TV, I suppose. The only one where you get to see on a regular basis. And the 44 looking great this evening. I do want to mention we've had a position change back here with teammates. Levine has let Langenberg go on by. It looks like Levine's struggling with the same front end grip loss as we saw earlier from Paul Lindsay and Christopher. Well, just Paul Lindsay. But I say that Paul Lindsay's all over the back end of Chris Bailey with just a minute and a half to go. 90 seconds left on the timer, and we might have a battle for our race lead.
Yeah, I was just gonna mention that on the final few laps, maybe the final lap of the race, we might have an exciting battle. So you can see now, as you can see now, looks like Paul Lindsay got his confidence back, and Christopher Bailey might be feeling the pressure on the final lap, and that could be very, very interesting. Oh, race is over apparently on the timing, but I'm pretty sure it's the final lap because they're racing very hard, and so this is gonna be interesting. Is he going to crack under pressure? We saw Sebastian Vettel cracking under pressure in 2011 on this race. Now, is Christopher Bailey going to be hanging up? He's already flashing his headlights to the left car ahead of him, so he doesn't interfere with the battle for the lead. But with the straight line speed advantage, the BMW could become a very major threat on the backstretch.
Yeah, and this is going to come down to a Wall of Champions move. This is ended up being the last lap. We just saw Chris. He's really pushing it to try to grow that gap as much as he can, which is actually going to hurt him here. I think, Paul's going to hold off on this pass here with Chris having the defensive line, but he can go around the outside very easily. He's got the top end speed. Chris is going to have to be pretty defensive in the Wall of Champions, so this could be very, very, very interesting. And we watched that gap. I mean, it was a second just a lap ago, and now, they're inside of a half a second. So it'll be interesting to see what happens here in this last corner.
I think the gap must have narrowed in the hairpin the last time through. Now into the Wall of Champions for the final time. This is it for the overall victory. Chris Bailey still ahead of Paul Lindsay. Paul just not close enough to make a lunge into the final corner. No mistake from Christopher Bailey. And Chris Bailey is going to come home to a Circuit Gilles Villeneuve victory in round number 4 of the Operation eMotorsport iRacing League presented by Recaro. It's the 2021 winter season and an overall overall victory going the way of an open driver. It's Christopher Bailey. Further back, we'll cover some of the battles coming to you. And this is coming up to the Wall of Champions momentarily. This is Hunter Reeve. We've also got Sean Knight back here. The next closest battle was momentarily, I think, Thomas Alton and Tyler Langenberg. No, it's split up now. And really everything very spread out here on back. No battles to speak of aside from these couple of D-Line Racing teammates. Levine, he's certainly not close enough to get to Langenberg here in the final corner, JP. I think all of our standings on the left side should remain as is. And absolutely, it's going to stay that way. Levine, not close enough to make a pass for the 8th position.
Yeah, unfortunately for him, but I guess it shows the quality of the team. You know, everybody pretty much on the same pace because they finished inside 3 seconds of each other. And they have been together for the entire lap. But let's talk about the race winner. I mean, what a race from him, you know. We started off the race, obviously he already was 1.5 seconds back. Just casually just dropped, I guess, to 7.58 seconds. And then all of a sudden, came alive on the race and absolutely turned on it into its head. And Paul Lindsay, unfortunately for him, you know, something happened. We'll definitely make sure to ask him what happened on the post-race interview. But you know, that was an exciting race from the second part onwards for the battle for the lead.
Yeah, you know, and that's the challenge. You know, you go out fast and you want to get that big gap at the beginning, which Paul did. And the question is, do you know how the car is going to handle at the end of the race? There's going to be lap traffic. You know, this isn't as big of a circuit as it is in out in Virginia International. There's a ton of space and you can really run away with it. So I think we saw Paul had a pretty aggressive early strategy, and then, you know, something like we said, I think he ran into some front end grip issues, and Chris just was very conservative early on with fuel and I think his tires, and the Porsche just did a little bit better there. And he was able to close the gap and then ultimately get the win.
And that is a big W for Christopher Bailey. We'll be talking to him and every other class winner this evening from Montreal. Do not go anywhere. Post-race coverage coming up next from Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. What a race we were just witness to here for round number 4 of the Operation eMotorsport iRacing Series. Post-race coverage coming right up right after these messages.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
Sound art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it sound art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? SoundArt gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas, and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
Welcome back to Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. We just saw an absolute thriller for overall race victory, which ended up being captured by none other than Open driver Christopher Bailey, taking the victory here at Montreal. Chris, how about that? The Open driver goes up there and beats the pro.
Yeah, I was quite happy with how that went.
Yeah, I would say so. We all want to know what happened under the pit stops to give you such an advantage suddenly. You went from 3.5, almost 4 seconds back to only a couple of seconds back. Did you take any tires? Did you underfuel a little bit? What were you trying to do? What did you end up doing to gain all that time?
One of the biggest things I tried to do to gain a little bit of time for me was be really late on the brakes into pit lane, obviously without going over the pit speed limit, and then underfueled the car a little bit, so I was going to have to save some, and then as a trade-off, I did take left side tires.
Okay, so left side tires. How bad was the wear then? What prompted you to take left side tires only and not rights?
I had just noticed throughout the race and also throughout my practicing, drive off suffered in the second half of the stint, and it seemed that left sides helped me a lot better than right sides.
Practice certainly then paying off for this number 10. This is a big win for not only your Open season, but just the season in general. You go up there, you beat the pro toe-to-toe, mano-a-mano. How do you feel then about the rest of the races coming up? We've got a big slate of races coming up. We stay in the Great White North next week for Canadian Tire.
Feeling pretty confident. I've had a good season so far. Main thing I'm trying to do at this point is work on minimizing the amount of mistakes, and I think today definitely paid dividends on that.
Absolutely. Well, you get things done this evening. 6 laps led even after starting second overall. You move up, promote yourself to first. Who do you have to thank? Who do you have to give a shout out this evening?
As always, I wanted to thank you guys over at Pitstop TV for putting on an awesome broadcast. Also wanted to thank Operation Motorsports for putting everything together, as well as our series sponsors, Recaro, as well as Mobile One.
Thank you so much for your time this evening. Congratulations on this big win here at Montreal. Enjoy it, soak it up, but get ready for CTMP in just 1 week's time.
Very much. I hope to be back.
That's Chris Bailey winning things not only in the Open class, but overall as well. That's a big W for the driver of the number 10. And I'll hand things off then to Paul Lindsay, suddenly second place in this interview order, and he is side by side with JP Costa.
So Paul, obviously qualified pole, led most of the race. Talk us through the qualifying lap. You know, obviously we're 0.4 of a second ahead of second place, and that start of the race, because you just led from 1.5 second, getting an absolutely perfect start, and then you just created that gap. Just talk us through those two parts of, let's say, the weekend.
Well, for qualifying, I felt like the car was just solid on this track. It really liked Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal, and I laid down the first lap, and it all came to me. It's just one of those laps where it all kind of came together. And that was the time that I took to the pole.
And obviously, then you just got a perfect start. I mean, you just timed that to perfection. Led, I mean, as soon as you passed the start-finish straight, you were already 1.5, 1.6 seconds ahead of Christopher Bailey, and then you just had a pretty much near perfect first stint up until the final few laps. How was the car feeling on the first part of the race?
Yeah, the start was funny because I'm not used to starting at the pole, so I wasn't really sure. It just worked out, so it was all by accident. And yes, I had a huge lead, and I just tried to keep my head in the game and keep going and roll the laps and hit the numbers until after the pits, and then Chris just reeled me right back in, and I couldn't keep him away. I couldn't keep him back there.
And what exactly happened between your massive gap and then all of a sudden we saw, Chris was 2 seconds, 1.5 seconds. Did you get a slowdown? What about the damage on the front end of your BMW? What happened?
Yeah, I'm not sure where that damage came in. It was a surprise to me when I hit the pits and it had optional repairs, which I didn't take. I think it was just from banging curbs so much. I probably did a little damage doing that. What happened? Maybe it's a mental game. Maybe I couldn't keep my focus right. But Chris had the pace on me in the second stint after the pits, and in the end, I think I was just making too many mistakes trying to keep him behind me. So I was almost pleased when he finally made the pass, and I could try to refocus and reel him back in, but I couldn't do it. He had too much pace. So congrats, Chris, on the win.
I guess it was, on the final lap, actually, we're extremely close to making a move, but unfortunately, it didn't quite happen. But congratulations throughout the race. That was incredible pace from the start. Unfortunately for him, I guess bad luck on the damage. But who do you have to thank for your performance here tonight?
Well, obviously, I want to thank Jason Leach and Opmo for putting this on. Dustin for getting me into it. Sean McKnight did some setup work for me. So lots of people helped me tonight, and I appreciate all of them.
Well, that was great talking to you here tonight. That was a fantastic race from you. I hope to talk to you again next week at Canadian Tire, and I guess just have a great night.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
And now I'm going to be passing Hunter Reeve, obviously the winner from his class, the beneficiary class, to our fellow pro driver, Chris Walsh.
And Hunter, congrats on your finish tonight. I mean, awesome class win. I think that's your best finish overall as well. So tell me about how'd you tackle the race? What did you do to keep the car clean and, end up in that P4 and first in class?
Are you supposed to be the one winning? Yeah, I mean, it was a tight race, and I was just trying to, see if I could just be patient and capitalize if people made any mistakes. And I was just trying to get to the end because you can gain a lot of times on the curbs, but you can also easily get into the wall. So I just kind of tried to play it safe.
Yeah, and that's something we talked about is those curbs can be your best friend or your worst enemy, and it's a trade-off. So I'm glad that you figured out the strategy you want. What was your biggest fear coming into the race? What was the thing that you were the most concerned about with the race and how you could end up managing the position you came back in?
Just try not, like I said, I mean, it's the same, just the curbs and just how close the walls are to you. It's it's a weird street road kind of circuit, so you can wreck really quickly and get in the wall. So I just, like I said, it was like it was before, just trying to be careful as I could and still trying to keep the pace.
Yeah, I'd say you did a great job managing that, and we saw you getting some tight battles and fight your way through it. Who do you have to thank for the win or for your class win tonight?
Thank you to Operation Motorsport, Recaro, Mobile One, Team HJ, Tooth, and my cheerleading squad, CJ, Danny, Hendo, and Amanda. I appreciate the support.
Well, congrats again, and have a great evening.
Thanks, man. You too.
So that is Hunter Reeve taking the beneficiary victory this evening. And you know what, Chris? it's your first time with us through these interviews and the commentary, everything was great. I just want to make sure we get that out of the way real quick. And before we go any further, before we get into our results, of course, we're going to remind everybody about the wonderful partners going into the Operation eMotorsport iRacing League presented by Recaro. Well, Recaro is a big one of them, and Recaro Automotive seats are more than just a set of components. They exude innovation, quality, premium materials, craftsmanship, and a genuine passion for cars. Recaro Automotive is proud to support Operation Motorsports iRacing. Of course, we also want to thank Mobile One. Mobile Run Racing OW50 protects the next generation of America's sports cars on the track, while Mobile One Advanced Synthetic is still found under the hood of every Corvette off the track. No matter where the hood of your Corvette is located, it's always been Mobile One from day one. And of course, these broadcasts are always brought to you by the following: Tucson Sound Art, your picture, your music. You provide the image you want, and they will custom create a beautiful framed high-quality canvas with a built-in Bluetooth speaker. With Sound Art, you get the best of both worlds. Visit TucsonSoundArt.com for additional info and to make your order today with promo code PitstopTV for 10% off of said order. Ever wish you could have a race engineer on speed dial? Well, now you can, thanks to Race Pace, a driver development service and setup shop all in one. Work with Tyler Campbell, a real world, race engineer to step up your game before your next race. Pick up pace with Race Pace. You see the Discord invite on the bottom of that graphic. You can type that into your browser. Make sure you have HTTPS and a colon there first, and it will take you directly to the Discord server where you can grab yourself Race Pace setups and you can become a part of the growing Race Pace community. And when it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy. At Permanent Makeup in Cryo in Maine, the owner, Ashley Boyer, is a certified micropigmentation specialist who provides professional, safe, and personalized services. You can contact Permanent Makeup in Cryo in Maine at permanentmakeupinmaine.com, or even call or text them at 207-358-8683. You can also find Permanent Makeup in Cryo in Maine on Facebook, where they hold monthly giveaways. And before we go any further, of course, a massive thank you to the official graphic and camera provider of Pit Stop TV, Whiplash Media. And you can go to Whiplash-Media or find them on Facebook at Whiplash Media for more information. Guys, what a race this evening. Amazing stuff, especially up front. Christopher Bailey gets it done over Paul Lindsay, a very narrow gap for victory this evening. Then 15 seconds back to Charlie Bass. That tells you just how good those top two were. Another 16 seconds or so back to Hunter Reeves, the beneficiary class winner. Sean Knight checks in at 5th place overall. Shane Hunter checks in at 6th. Then it's Thomas Outzen in the open category, followed up by 3 pros in the top 10, Tyler Langenberg, David Levine, and Travis Hill.
Finishing off in P11, the first driver to get a lap down, Rodney Campbell in the number 62. Theo Brosma finishes off in P12, unfortunately, dropping a few more points to his championship rival Hunter Reeve. Dustin Berghalter finishes P13. Brian Burkhardt finishes P14. The number 92 of Chris Matthews finishes in 15th place. Brandon Agerchik, unfortunately, after I guess a mishap, something happened to him, unfortunately only finishes in 16th place. John Winker under number 7 finishes in 17th. Brian Winker in 18th. In 19th place we do have the 11 of Callum Belden, and Tim Bernard runs off the top 20.
And 21st, the 69 of Rick Hazlitt. 22nd, we've got Jay Gleason, the number 64 car. And 23rd position, Dave Dalton in the 5 car. And 24th, the number 9 of John Fix. Jason Leach will take the 25th position, the number 22 Porsche. 26th, we've got the number 81 of Kurt Gudenkauf. And then 27th, 58 of Brock Hogan. And to round out the field in 28th position, the 946 of Mark Bray.
And it looks like Mark Bray may not have made a lap this evening with us, but boy, what a field. And boy, I wish we could have talked more about the midfield and the rear of the field even, but the battles up front were so good this evening, gentlemen. It was just so tough to really sink too far back in the field without missing something up front. These guys certainly put on a show. JP Costa, this has me looking forward to the back end of the season even more.
Yeah, exactly, and obviously Canadian Tire is a very, very tricky circuit. It's definitely going to be providing us with great entertainment next week. I'm so excited to see everybody managing that track. Difficult in so many different ways, breaking points, elevation changes, It's just going to be excellent, and I'm sure they're going to be providing us great racing just like they did here tonight.
Yeah, CTMP, great track, very fun, very fast, very flowy. A lot of easy places to make mistakes. It's, borderline a road course in some ways, or a street course like this with very close walls. So I think we'll see a lot of the same situations we ran in today. Very short track, a lot of lap traffic. So it should be a very exciting race. Thanks again, guys, for having me in the booth with you all and giving me a chance to see what it's like on this side of the broadcast.
Once again, Chris, you did an amazing job for your first time with us, and seriously, a round of applause, everybody, if you're still with us. Hopefully you still are. Make sure you share this even after the fact, because you can watch these broadcasts on demand on all of our platforms. Amazing stuff from Chris Walsh. It was a really, really great pleasure to have you alongside of us and provide the input that it's tough for us to get sometimes. We are out there racing. It's tough for us to know exactly what we're talking about sometimes when we're so disconnected from the cars, it feels like. But thank you so much for your insight this evening, Chris. And I want to mention before we close this one out that usually Emerson Arden would have taken you through our coverage this evening of OPMO. Just want to extend our thoughts to everybody impacted by the recent winter weather across the country and across, I'm sure, Canada and anywhere else in this world that you're experiencing extreme weather. It's very scary stuff in some situations. For example, I've got family members in Texas that have been without power for almost 2 days now. Emerson Arden, he spent yesterday with no power. It came back today. Thought we were all good to go for this evening, and with just a half hour until this evening's broadcast was supposed to start, he lost power. We had to thrash, put in a backup plan, and we got things done. Very glad to have been here back with OPMO for my first time all season. It was certainly a pleasure. Again, amazing racing here from Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Just want to extend, again, our thoughts, our prayers to everybody impacted by this winter weather. It's extreme stuff. By all means, be very, very safe if you do go out of the house, if you do go driving around, because roads through the entire middle portion of the country and even out west where there's snow, even up north where, well, I guess east where there's snow up north, it's very scary stuff. If you don't know, if you haven't driven in the snow before, maybe stay inside. It's getting pretty treacherous out there. That said, that does conclude our coverage tonight of round 4 of 8 of the winter 2021 installments of the Operation eMotorsport iRacing League presented by Recaro. We at Pit Stop TV thank you for tuning in and joining us for tonight's action, and we hope you enjoyed the broadcast. Be sure to join us tomorrow evening as we bring you coverage of the Bluegrass iRacing Series at Darlington Raceway. It's their playoff cutoff race. After this one, they only have 4 races to decide a series champion. 16 drivers will be locked into those playoffs as of tomorrow evening's checkered flag. Then be sure to join us for LTAC. Their Cup Series goes to Michigan International Speedway this Friday night. It's a big early season race you don't want to miss. A big 2-mile super speedway is really going to shake things up. You, of course, also don't want to miss Pit Stop TV's coverage of the Nork-Tona 500 coming to you this weekend. The 2021 installment is sure to excite, taking Nork Stars to Daytona once more. It's going to be a whole lot of fun in those Cup cars. We have dual racing Saturday, then the 500-mile event Sunday, and the racing action continues on Monday night with the usual doubleheader, the BRP iRacing Series at USA International Speedway, the big blocks at the 3/4-mile dirt track, then the Pacific Challenge GT3 Series for the endurance race, the third of 3 on the season at Sebring International Raceway, where OPMO will have our season finale coming up very soon. It's not so far away. This race went by very quickly. In 4 hours more racing, we're going, well, 3 hours more racing actually, will be opening up Sebring. It is on the way. And we continue the Operation eMotorsport action next week. Before we get to Sebring, we got to go through Canadian Tire Motorsport Park next week. It's going to be a whole lot of fun, keeping things up in the Great White North. Not so white here on iRacing. A whole lot of green grass still, which I think brings warm thoughts to all Canadians who are experiencing the aforementioned winter weather. Make sure to follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/pitstoptv, on Twitter at pitstoptv_, on Twitch at www.twitch.tv/pit_stop_tv, and on YouTube at www.youtube.com/c/pitstoptv1. For all of us here at Pit Stop TV, JP Costa and Chris Walsh with me virtually on the mic this evening, Corey Vexford on the social media coverage, I am Edgar Cardinale IV. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time. Have a great night.